H.R. 1 is being debated. The problem that the Democrats have is they don't have enough votes to get it through the filibuster. This would totally federalize all of the state elections. I mean, would give the control to the states and the federal government in a way we never anticipated at our founding, including redistricting, which has always been a state activity. Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, Democrat, often said, he caucuses with both parties. He said, I do not affirm, I do not want to remove the filibuster until the pressure got so great that he's already made a compromise bill to H.R. 1. The filibuster is currently 60. You can't get something to the floor of the Senate without 60 votes. Manchin is saying, I'll drop that to 55.
Yeah, he's saying to drop it to 55 after just a matter of 2 weeks ago, Jay, writing an op-ed saying that he was opposed to any change in the filibuster. By the way, Jay, that was the same op-ed in which he said this. He said, I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakening binds of our democracy, and for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. Now, Jay, he's proposing a version of voting legislation that lifts all of the provisions out of the For the People Act, drops them in a new bill, gives it a new name, and lo and behold, Joe Manchin is for it. So in that same op-ed, when he said he's opposed to the filibuster, do you believe him? Because I don't.
Mike, thank you. You've got an article up at aclj.org, and it's entitled H.R. 1 is an Assault on Democracy in America. We've just been talking about that. I mean, this is a radical rewrite of constitutional norms, especially on elections.
This presents enormous risk to our central understandings about how America and American elections operate. It's at the very core of what makes our nation so special. The left wants to federalize these in their entirety. They want you and I to take our money out of our pockets and transfer them to candidates who we disagree with strongly by subsidizing and matching monies in campaigns. They want to ban the use of IDs, just asking folks to identify who they are if they want to come out and validating that they're in fact entitled to vote and consistent with American law. These are basic precepts that states run elections and not the federal government. This is in fact not only a rewrite of our election process, but a rewrite of the understandings that have been at the bedrock of America for 240 plus years now.
This is what he says. He calls for changes to a section in the bill that would create nonpartisan commissions to redraw congressional maps, and Manchin instead proposed the use of computer models to prevent partisan gerrymandering, but there's called a legislative process in the states that determine this.
It's a federal takeover of redistricting. Now, look, he may be slightly tweaked the mechanism of by which it would be accomplished, but it still moves the authority from the states to the federal government.
This is what Joe Manchin said. A good voting bill basically protects the voters, protects the states and states' rights. But his bill does exactly the opposite. The biggest thing that states' rights have is determining congressional districts, legislative districts. He's saying, no, we're going to turn it over to a computer and federalize it. And what about the legislative process in the states? I mean, think about that one for a moment. What would possess him to think he could do that? Oh, pressure, Wes, coming in from the Democrats, yes, including the hard left.
Yes, and he is caving into this pressure, and I am profoundly disappointed in Senator Manchin. What is the most sacred and important aspect of a representative of a democratic republic? It's the right of the people to vote and choose their own representatives. Anything this significant needs to be overwhelmingly bipartisan. Plus, the federal government, that level of government, is echelons above individuals as far as representation goes, as opposed to a state. And yet many states, like my home state of Georgia, they even delegate, voting down to the county as far as some policies go. So at the county level, as I go in and vote for my representatives, that is very close to where I live. Those people live among me. What they're proposing to do is taking something that normally is controlled by the state or by the individual community and moving all of it to a bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. that we do not choose, that we do not elect.